Western Mass News is your election authority. Early voting ends today, and Super Tuesday is right around the corner. So how are area polling places looking? Western Mass News reporter Olivia Hickey now joins us live in Amherst with those details. Olivia.
Abby and Chris, the town clerk tells me here in Amherst, overall turnout has been extremely low. But one UMass professor I spoke with says overall he thinks there'll be high interest in this election as a whole. Early voting ends on Friday, and in Amherst we're told turnout has been low. As of today, a little more than half of the town's requested 3,300 mail-in ballots have been returned. According to town clerk Susan Audette, the town has seen over 80 in-person early voters. By comparison, the last state primary in September of 22 had 175 voters in person for early voting, and November of 2022's midterm election had 624 early in-person voters. We asked Audette how she expects the turnout to look Tuesday. She tells Western Mass News, if only taking into account the current number of returned ballots and the in-person early voter turnout, it's going to be a quiet day.
There might be less enthusiasm in the short run for the primary, but now that we're moving toward a pretty clear situation in which we've got very distinctive presidential nominees.
We spoke with Jesse Rhodes, a political science professor at UMass Amherst. He tells Western Mass News voters are going to see lots of interest and engagement in fall campaigns. The department ran a recent poll looking at the emotions of Americans on the prospect of a presidential campaign that features Democratic candidate President Joe Biden versus former President Donald Trump.
And the main thing that came out of this research was that Americans are facing the election with a lot of anxiety and concern, and that they're very, very ambivalent about the prospect of a rematch between Biden and Trump.
But with that concern comes interest in casting a vote in November.
When people feel fearful or angry or upset, that is just negative emotions in general. They become more engaged with politics because they feel that the consequences of the election will be higher, and that because they think that the stakes are high, they become more likely to turn out to vote.
We also asked him what he thinks turnout can look like at area polls for Super Tuesday.
It's hard to say. I think if we're looking at this Super Tuesday, I think we'll see a reasonable amount of turnout. It will be an interesting test to see if there's a slight decline in turnout because it appears that neither of the primary elections are terribly competitive. But I don't think we want to conclude that turnout will be low in advance.
Now, Chris, early voting does end today, but folks still have time to cast their vote on Super Tuesday, which is March 5th for the primary. And for the folks at home, be sure to tune into Western Mass News all throughout Super Tuesday for team coverage. Reporting live in Amherst, Olivia Hickey, Western Mass News.